What is going on, everybody? My name is Ogden Football, and today we'll be previewing the AFC West Division. I've already done the AFC East, the AFC North, and the AFC South, so I'll put those videos in the description box below. Make sure you guys go check those out when you have a chance. Getting into the AFC West, though, let's start off with the defending Super Bowl champions, the Denver Broncos. One of the biggest storylines, not just with the Denver Broncos, but in the entire NFL this offseason, is who will be playing quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Mark Sanchez looked like the guy for a while, and people were kind of turning their heads asking people, like, are they really going to start Mark Sanchez after just winning a Super Bowl? I mean, Sanchez, it's not glamorous. Nobody wants to see him go start out there. I don't think anybody has any high expectations for him either. So a lot of people are starting to look at Trevor Siemian now as a viable replacement for Sanchez and somebody that can manage the game well and kind of do what Peyton Manning did in the tail end of last season and into the playoffs. Because with this defense, the offense doesn't really have to be as high caliber because like we saw last year, the defense really carried the load for him. But getting in the third quarterback on the list, Paxton Lynch, a lot of people are saying that he could possibly get the job, or not that he could, but he should. I completely disagree with that. This guy just played in the AFC with the Memphis Tigers, and he had some good games, but towards the second half of the season, I thought he kind of fell off a little bit. He still needs to be developed a good amount, and I think it's ridiculous to say this guy should start week one. He really needs to at least take half the season to develop and kind of see the action in front of his own eyes. Another thing with the Broncos offense, very weak running game. I'm not sold on C.J. Anderson. He had that amazing stretch in the 2014 NFL season where in the second half of the season where he had a lot of rushing yards, a lot of rushing touchdowns. Was a great running back, but he was terrible last year. A lot of people speculated he was injured, but I do not believe that is the case. He bounced back in the playoffs, however, and impressed some people, but I do not believe he will make the same impression on the people this regular season. He's just not that great of a running back, in my opinion. And you got the two good wide receivers on the outside, Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. I really like Emmanuel Sanders. He's pretty consistent and reliable, gets a lot of catches. But Demaryius Thomas, I'm starting to get frustrated with Demaryius Thomas. He picked up a lot of yards in 2014, and last year he kind of just was not very good at all. He didn't help out Peyton Manning, didn't help out Brock Osweiler. He is really not proving himself to be worth the $75 million contract he got, which was the same as Dez Bryant's. So, yeah, he's not really living up to expectations. I think many could argue Emmanuel Sanders was the better receiver last year as well, and Demaryius Thomas is supposed to be an elite wide receiver in this NFL. And I also do not believe he will go back to that this year. It just seems like he's being a bit lazy out there, and it just doesn't look good from a viewer's standpoint. And another big problem I see with this Broncos team is the offensive line. They addressed it this offseason. They signed Russell Okung. I think Russell Okung had a down year last year, but I expect him to bounce back from that down year. I think he's a talented young player. I believe he's 27 years old still, so I think he should help strengthen that Broncos offensive line. But even if he's the best offensive lineman on the team, the other four starting offensive linemen are kind of trash to put it good. But looking at their defense, you just kind of look at the defense and you kind of just get mad because if you're a fan of any of the other 31 NFL teams, you kind of just get frustrated looking like, how can a defense even be this good? I mean, you literally cannot find the hole in this defense. They are so consistent across the board, and you've got stars up to lead this defense. Von Miller, obviously the biggest name on this defense. He's right up there with J.J. Watt as the best defensive player in the NFL, and I don't even think you can argue it at this point after seeing what he did in the Super Bowl. But he's just one of the many superstars on this defense. Derek Wolfe, a guy that goes under the radar for some people. He played very well in the AFC Championship game last year against the New England Patriots. But other than that, he played great in the regular season as well, and he's somebody should be glad to have back this year. And their cornerbacks extremely deep at that position. They've got Aqib Talib, Bradley Roby, and Chris Harris Jr. Aqib Talib, hopefully he can stop fooling around with guns and have a good season this year. Hopefully he won't have a Super Bowl hangover or anything because he's extremely talented. Chris Harris Jr., guy doesn't even let up any touchdowns at all, he had that long streak. He had some bumps last year, but he's still like an amazing cornerback, easily top 10 in the league, and he's not even their number one guy, you could argue. Bradley Roby is their third cornerback as well. He's still a very young guy. I think he's only been in the NFL for 2 or 3 years at this point. So you got to like him as your number 3 guy. I'm sure a lot of teams would like him as their number 1 guy out there. But this defense, I was looking at them, and you just got to figure they have to regress. I mean, you look at the Super Bowl hangover thing, I think this defense might suffer from it a little bit. You lost one of their better players in Malik Jackson, so we'll have to see what they can do this year, but I would not expect them to be the best defense in the NFL again this year. Even though I just finished talking them up so much, I think they have to come back down to earth, and there's some other defenses in the NFL out there that could possibly take the crown as the best defense in the NFL. So I ended up having the Broncos going 10-6. The Broncos pulled off a lot of close games last year that just seemed extremely lucky. Their defense won them a lot of games. Those games might not go in their favor this year in those close games. So they went 12-4 last year. I think they will go 10-6 this year. Another thing people keep on bringing up is, Mark Sanchez or Trevor Siemian can start and they'll be just as good as Peyton Manning. Well, that might be true. I just think the dynamic of having Mark Sanchez lead you out of the tunnel compared to Peyton Manning is just so much different. You got to figure that this team would, with a starting quarterback like Peyton Manning, one of the greatest of all time at his position, you think that team would rally around, be confident in him, very likable guy, very smart, and play to their best of abilities with him on that team. And then you see like a guy like Mark Sanchez. I think that can feel a little bit queasy going into the season, knowing that he is your guy that is supposed to take you back to the Super Bowl. I don't think his teammates will have any confidence in him, and I don't have any confidence in Sanchez either. I think he'll be a disaster as well. That's why I think Trevor Siemian is the way to go. Even though we haven't seen him, he apparently will be able to manage games. That's what I've been hearing from reports, and that's basically all the Broncos can ask right now. Looking on the next team, we got the San Diego Chargers. They kind of fell apart and had a disastrous season last year, especially after Keenan Allen went down. They ended up going 4-12, obviously the 3rd overall pick in the draft. Their offense, led by Phillip Rivers. I love this guy, great quarterback. I think that if he was on a decent team at all in his career, he would easily have made a deep playoff run at this point, maybe even a Super Bowl ring. But the Chargers have been pretty unfair to him, never giving him what he needs to help, giving him any help to win a Super Bowl or even make a deep playoff run. So they improved their receiver depth this offseason, though. They added Travis Benjamin. He was a guy that kind of just caught a bunch of long balls for the Browns last year, racked up a good amount of touchdowns while doing so. So this guy should stretch the field for them. And if Keenan Allen can stay healthy, that's looking like a pretty good passing attack. Their offensive line, though, remains a problem. It's just not up to snuff with the other offensive lines in the AFC West. It's probably on the same par as the Broncos, though, to be honest. And they continue to avoid this as an issue. Like the Chargers, they have the 3rd overall pick in the draft. They don't want to go for Conklin. They don't want to go for Tunsil. They don't want to go for Stanley. And they ended up going for Bosa, which I'll get into in a second. But they have avoided the offensive line issue for so many years, and it's kind of painful to see Phillip Rivers have to play with it. And it's just a joke that they haven't even that it has not improved, and it's been such a terrible offensive line for years now. So I can't expect that to improve at all. And their tailback, Melvin Gordon, they took him in the 1st round last year. as many of you probably remember. I think this guy's going to be a garbage NFL running back. I mean, we saw it last year. He didn't even score a touchdown last year, which is very concerning. I don't think he's an NFL running back fit. I think he's more of a college guy. I forget where today I was listening to one of the podcasts on The Ringer, and a guy from San Diego kept on mentioning how Melvin Gordon is just a track star, and I completely agree with him because this guy is very fast. He makes good cuts, but when it comes to the NFL and he's playing with the big boys, I just don't think he'll ever be that guy that the Chargers need him to be. Definitely not a first-round talent. So they'll have to rely on a little bit more on Danny Woodhead. But looking at the defensive side of the ball, like I mentioned earlier, they drafted Bosa in the with a third overall pick in the first round. He still hasn't signed on to the Chargers contract right now, which is a bit of a problem, creates some tension, but I'm sure he'll eventually sign on. There's no way he's going to hold out and not actually play this season. That'd be ridiculous. But yeah, he should be able to play, and I don't think he'll make that much of an impact, but a lot of the scouts said that this guy's one of the most NFL-ready players. I'm not a big fan of Bosa, to be honest. I didn't think he was worth a third overall pick. I believe that the Chargers addressed the defensive line issue, though, with him because that defensive line is pretty terrible as well. So they definitely needed somebody to help up front there. But where the Chargers really shine at the cornerback position, or I should really just say where they really shine is Jason Verrett. This guy's a top 10 corner, definitely in my mind. He's very young as well, only a few years out of college, and I think he should only continue to get better. It's only a matter of whether or not other cornerbacks on this team can step up. Brandon Flowers, I thought he was going to make a very good 1-2 punch with Verrett last year, and he did not play up to snuff at all. He played awful. I don't even know if he'll be starting this year. That's how bad he was. So I'll have to see what he can do. He's a very talented guy, but he's getting to be a veteran, and he's on the tail end of his career for sure. So that situation isn't looking great. And their linebacker position, also disappointing. Denzel Perryman really let me down last year. I thought he'd be a good player. Did not play well at all. And his partner in crime, Manti Te'o, don't even get me started on him. He played like an absolute disaster. It was just ugly to watch all around for the Chargers defense last year. Brandon Ingram, though, Melvin Ingram. I'm thinking of a basketball player. Melvin Ingram, also a very good defensive player on that team, though, but him and Verrett are really the only guys that stand out to me. And I've got the San Diego Chargers going 6-10, so I hear a lot of chatter from people around the league saying this team could potentially steal the AFC West. Don't listen to that. That is such a blasphemous thing to say. I mean, to say that this team can go from 4-12 to going higher than the other three teams, including a defending Super Bowl champ, that is utterly ridiculous. I got them winning a couple more games from last year, but I don't think it'll be any better than that. But going on to the next team with the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders are a team that's on the rise for sure. People are giving them their props. They're saying this team can potentially win the division, which I think they do have potential, but there are a lot of things that need to fall into place for this to all to work. Derek Carr has got to continue to develop. He played very well last year. I'm a big fan of his, but if he is starting to hit his ceiling soon, he's extremely young still a second-year guy, which is pretty crazy to think about. But we don't really know where his ceiling is right now. I can't imagine it's that high. I think I'm one of the guys that's been affected by how bad his brother David was in the NFL, and I know I shouldn't let that affect me too much in my opinion of him because it's not David Carr playing, it's Derek, but we just got to see what he can do because he's got some weapons there, like Amari Cooper. I think this guy's the X factor for the Raiders this season. If he emerges to what his potential is, number 4 overall pick, this offense could be very scary because this guy's a catching machine. He led the league in drops last year, though. Big red flag. And he's got Michael Crabtree on their side, who I think he's always going to be a reliable receiver to throw to. But Amari Cooper's kind of got to take the torch from Crabtree and become the number 1 receiver. And looking at the Raiders' offensive line, you could make the argument that it's the second best offensive line in the league behind the Dallas Cowboys. great in pass protection, good run blocking as well. Their running back Latavius Murray. I think he's still very young too, only a couple of years out of UCF. So if Latavius Murray can get it together and play a little bit better than last season, this has a good chance of being a very good run offense as well. They drafted DeAndre Washington also. So if things don't work for Latavius, I think DeAndre Washington will be a good replacement for him. And I think DeAndre Washington could take a good amount of carries away from him as well. Looking at the Raiders' defense, the first name that immediately jumps to my mind, love the guy, Khalil Mack. Won All-Pro at 2 different positions last year, which is absolutely insane. Never been done before. If it weren't for guys like J.J. Watt and Von Miller, this guy would definitely be at the top of the league, no doubt. They signed Bruce Irvin over the offseason, so he'll be playing next to Malcolm Smith, his old Seahawks teammate. So we'll have to see if he can create some of that old Seahawks dynamic, because that'd be pretty nice to have at the linebacker position. They also signed Sean Smith from the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a very good year last year. I think Sean Smith was ready to take the cornerback 1 position and really help this Raiders team out. And also David Amerson, another guy that should be a decent cornerback this year. And then DJ Hayden also, that guy is very talented. He gets a ton of praise from his teammates as to how athletic he is, but he has never lived up to his potential at all. He's looking like a very big bust right now. So if he can get it together, that'd be amazing. It'd be very big for the Raiders, but it does not look like he will to date. And like I said earlier, the pieces really need to fall into place for this team, because if all the pieces fall into place, this team has 12-4 upside. But they ended up going 7-9 last year. You never know if the hype train is going too fast on this team. But I ended up having the Raiders go 9-7. So, actually, I'm sorry. No, I've got the Raiders going 10-6. But I feel like that is the maximum for the Raiders. I thought I was being generous giving them that record. So we'll have to see about that. The Kansas City Chiefs, my last team. They had an amazing season last year. I don't think people really talk about it quite enough. They went from 1-5 to 11-5, won 10 straight to finish off the season, which is absolutely ridiculous. They overcame such a tough schedule and really showed everybody in the NFL what they could do and what they could be capable of, even with a game manager quarterback like Alex Smith. Alex Smith, perfect game manager though. Like if you're gonna have a good defense and some good weapons around him, Alex Smith is the game manager you want. He hardly ever throws interceptions. You gotta love a guy like that, and he can be a good quarterback when you need him to be. He's not. We haven't seen enough from him, but he's still not that old. So we'll have to see if he can finally break out and kind of step away from that game manager tag that's on him, and really just lead the Chiefs' offense to a good, productive season. They definitely need help with the receivers. So Jeremy Maclin, he's a good signing. I really like him, but they need more than him, because the defenses can just take this guy away, and then Kansas City Chiefs really don't have anybody else. Travis Kelce was a big letdown last year. He's supposed to have a big breakout season, declare himself as a top 5 tight end, no doubt, but a lot of people saw some big concerns with him last year, so we're not really sure about him. But looking at their defense was amazing last year. Second in the league in interceptions, 4th in sacks. They were extremely productive. Derek Johnson, Tamba Hali, Marcus Peters, all great players. Marcus Peters is only a second-year guy, won Defensive Rookie of the Year. I believe he led the league in interceptions as well, or was close to it. So he should continue to have a great sophomore year. Hopefully he won't sophomore slump. And the other 2 guys are proven veterans. We all know what they're going to do. They're going to continue to play great, but there are 2 players that I've got extremely big question marks over, starting off with Eric Berry. Amazing story from last year, I should say at first. It was amazing what he could do and still play at such a high level. That's the other thing about this guy. The Chiefs really need to get this guy on the field, because they will miss him this year. He is a top 5 safety in the NFL, in my opinion. He's right near that level of Earl Thomas, and if you think of him as a safety, Tyrann Mathieu. So the Chiefs really need to get this guy out on the field immediately. Another big question mark I have, Justin Houston. He is a top 5 defensive player in this league while healthy. He racks up a bunch of sacks, and he's such an important piece of this Chiefs defense, the leader of this Chiefs defense. And we don't know what's going to happen with him. There's a lot of speculation going around he will not play at all in 2016, which would be a big blow to them. But there are also some optimistic reports that he'll be back by mid-season or so, and if that is the case, then the Chiefs are in business. These two question marks, if Eric Berry and Justin Houston were both healthy and going to play 16 games this year, I would probably pencil the Chiefs in for 12-4. That's how scary this defense would be. But right now I've got the Chiefs going 10-6, but at the same time winning the division. So they will get a home game to start off the playoffs. If they could get Justin Houston back by then I think that would be a big time player for them to help them out in the playoffs and maybe make a playoff run. Another thing I forgot to mention is that I've got the Raiders going 10-6, the Broncos going 10-6. I only have one wild card spot to go in my AFC. I ended up having the Oakland Raiders take the final wild card spot over the Denver Broncos. Yes, I'm keeping the Denver Broncos out of the playoffs. I just do not like what is going on with their offense this year. I believe their defense is going to regress a little bit, as good as it is. They won a lot of close games last year, like I said, and I don't know if they'll go their way this year. So I think it is very likely that they will miss the playoffs, especially in a up-and-coming division. So there you guys have it. Oakland Raiders, number 6 seed, the wild card, and the Kansas City Chiefs. 10-6, I'd say, is their minimum. You've got room to grow, though, so they'll be winning the division, I'd say. That concludes my AFC preview. That was my AFC West, but I've done all the AFC now. Like I said earlier, I'll be going on to the NFC East tomorrow, working my way through the NFC, and then right before the season starts, I'll be making a complete predictions video. So make sure you stick around later on this month to find that out. But thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. And make sure you comment down to what you think below. And thank you all for watching. Until next time.